Hi, welcome back to Dynamic Alignment Bodywork. This is Liam, and today we're going to start off with a really simple test. And actually, forget I said test, because when we say test, we want to get it right? So this is not about getting it right, but what would be the word? Exploration. We want to see what happens, and this is going to be about balancing on one leg and then the other, so like tree pose in yoga. But really important, like a lot of these movements that we do, this one isn't going to be about getting one foot up. It's going to be about the process by which we get that foot up. So here's what I mean. This is okay. I'm going to reference my hip bones here, so my hips. I'm going to play with one side and see what it's like imagining gravity sort of pouring through me like water. I'm going to translate that pouring onto one foot and just have an eye towards where my hips tend to go. So this side can stay pretty well neutral, and then I can lift up. I'm just lifting my foot a touch. I mean, you can lift up all the way or go into tree pose or whatever you want to do from there, but for this experiment, I'm just doing that little lift. I can also feel that there's an evenness relatively through my foot. The inside of my knee, all the way up into my hip, my torso can stay sort of stacked on top. Interesting. Now I'm going to do the other side. Think about pouring weight. And now I'll exaggerate a little bit so it's easy to see, but hugely a tendency on this side for me is to go this way with my hip and then lift my leg. It's very easy to find stability this way. If I do my best to keep my position as it is right now, even down to a very subtle sort of micro level, and in this case that means not letting this hip glide out this way, but pulling it in, engaging my hip abductors in a way that we don't usually think of them being used. Another reference for this would be growing long through your torso. Now, this actually becomes a very difficult exercise. So we can again say a word like exercise, which is actually pretty appropriate here, but I also really want to draw attention to the sensation I feel in this foot and a feeling of fullness. We talk about legs and our whole bodies like side to side, front and back, which is true. And right now, really imagining your leg as a whole cylinder. And if that were to light up, like if a muscle fiber fired, it would give it a little light. There's sort of a uniform, it's more in some areas than others, but there's no patches of darkness. So one side, this will tend to come to us very easily. And another side, it might take some more kind of work for a lot of us to engage this inner line, which ends up squeezing the hips and then reorganizing my torso on top of that. It's a very sort of mechanical way of putting it for a, in some ways, much more rich movement experience than that. I actually first got this idea for starting to play with this stuff from a client of mine who's a dancer who talked about how in dance we all have one side that's more postural and one side that's more gestural, right? That can move and do the moving. And this one, that feels much more natural for me than this and this. This little awareness exercise I just demonstrated, little doses of that, have been really helpful for me in waking up my hips. And I notice that a lot when I walk. And also, as you guys maybe know, I've been playing a lot with fire truck, with movements like weightlifting. So when I'm down in a squat, if I drop into a squat and I think about tracking my knees over my toes, I think you can just barely see. This way, this leg, my more postural leg, I notice these glutes can fire much more easily and press out, which helps keep my torso upright. This leg feels a little more wooden and a little more like the knee is just a hinge joint and I can't really rotate into this, what's that called, external rotation, firing my glutes and keeping my torso upright to be able to push and drive. So Anyway, this one more than others, this is, I know a lot of like different angles and sort of little like tidbits, but whatever of this lands for you, great. Whatever of this makes sense, great. I think a really practical application can be if you're in a yoga class and you're doing tree pose, paying attention to really how you go into it and not just the like get your foot there, but can you maintain length through your whole leg, through your hip and torso on both sides when you're doing it. And we can get into some really interesting little nooks and crannies. And actually, even just for the rest of us, tree pose or not, just playing with what's that like to like pour weight through one leg and have that whole cylinder light up and then keep my hip from drifting too far. Not that anything would be wrong with my hip going that way. I just don't want to do it just because it's default. I want to have options, right? So if being able to snug and maintain, if I can find the tallest position, I'm standing on one foot, I know you can't see that, but if I can find the tallest position, I can generally find my way into other positions, but not vice versa. That saying of what is above knows what is below, but not vice versa. Anyway, I hope this helps. As always, namaste. See you soon.